From the moment Maya spotted the outline of a sunken ship on Google Maps, something about it wouldn't let her go. She searched everywhere online and found absolutely nothing about it.
No articles, no blog posts, no local news coverage, nothing. And when she finally traveled to that remote island and dove beneath the surface to see it for herself, she realized exactly why this ship had been erased from the internet. What she found inside changed everything, and it nearly cost her life.
If you enjoy stories like this one, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new one.
It started 3 weeks before her vacation. Maya and her boyfriend Derek had booked a week on a tiny remote island that promised peaceful hikes, empty beaches, and zero cell service. Maya was scrolling through Google Maps, scanning the coastline for interesting spots to visit, when something caught her eye. In a small harbor on the island's northern shore sat what unmistakably looked like a ship resting just beneath the waterline. She zoomed in closer. The outline was too detailed, too precise to be a glitch. The shadow it cast on the harbor floor was consistent with the angle of the sun in the satellite image. This was real. Maya was not just some random tourist with a curiosity problem. She had studied marine biology in college and spent 2 summers volunteering on shipwreck documentation projects in the Caribbean. She knew what a submerged vessel looked like from above, and she knew that an undocumented one this close to shore was genuinely unusual. She spent the next several hours searching for any reference to this ship. The harbor had no website. The island's tourism pages made no mention of it. She cross-referenced maritime incident databases and found nothing matching this location. It was as if the ship did not exist, but she was staring right at it. She showed Derek that evening. He glanced at her screen and shrugged.
Probably just an old fishing boat that sank and nobody bothered to remove. Happens all the time on small islands. He told her not to get her hopes up.
She smiled and said nothing, but inside she had already decided. That harbor would be their first stop. The journey to the island took 15 hours across 3 modes of transport: a flight, a long drive, and finally a rattling ferry ride through open water. They arrived exhausted, and Derek wanted to collapse at the hotel. But Maya was practically vibrating with anticipation. She agreed to wait until morning but barely slept. The next day they climbed into a taxi outside their hotel. Maya showed the driver the harbor's location on her phone. The man studied the screen. Then his face changed completely. He pulled his phone away from her hands and shook his head rapidly. He told them he could not go there. That area was closed, forbidden. He told them to pick somewhere else. When Maya pressed him for a reason, he refused to answer and asked them both to get out of his car immediately. Derek stood on the sidewalk, looking stunned. Maya stood next to him, looking electrified. She had spent 3 weeks wondering if she was making something out of nothing. That cab driver had just confirmed she wasn't. They tried no other cabs. Maya already knew the answer they would get. She pulled up the route on her phone, 3 hours on foot. The last stretch cut through dense forest, which meant nobody would see them approach. Derek protested. If they got caught trespassing on a restricted site, they could be arrested. Their vacation would be over on day 1.
Maya looked at him and said she understood completely, but she was going. Derek wrestled with it for a long moment. Then he grabbed his backpack and followed her. He muttered the entire first hour but kept walking.
The forest was thick and eerily quiet. No birdsong, no hikers, no trail markers. After nearly 3 hours, they emerged from the tree line and stopped cold. A tall chain-link fence stretched in both directions as far as they could see, curving around the entire harbor perimeter. Bolted to the fence at regular intervals were signs in at least 8 languages. No trespassing. Authorized personnel only. Violators subject to prosecution. Derek told her this was the line. He was not climbing that fence. He would wait right here in the trees for 1 hour. If she was not back by then, he was walking to the hotel and calling local authorities to come find her. Maya agreed to his terms. She circled along the fence until she found a section partially obscured by overgrown vegetation. She climbed it in under 30 seconds and dropped to the other side. The harbor was completely abandoned. Rusted boat husks sat in dry dock. Moss covered every surface. Nothing had operated here in what looked like years. Maya crept toward the water's edge and looked down. There it was, exactly like the satellite image. A large vessel resting on the harbor floor, tilted slightly to one side. But Maya immediately noticed something she could not have known from Google Maps. The ship was far closer to the surface than expected. Its upper deck sat barely 2 meters below the waterline. She could reach it. Maya stripped down to the athletic wear she had deliberately worn underneath her clothes. She controlled her breathing the way she had been trained during her dive volunteer work. Then she slipped into the water. The cold hit her immediately. The water was dark and tasted metallic. She dove down and reached the deck in seconds. The ship was larger up close than she had expected. Military markings were still faintly visible along the hull.
This was not a fishing boat. This was a decommissioned naval vessel. She surfaced, took 3 deep breaths, and dove again. This time she pulled herself along the deck toward an open hatch.
The steel around the hatch opening was corroded but intact. She squeezed through. Inside the ship, dim light filtered through cracks in the hull. Maya's eyes adjusted. What she saw made her stomach drop. The cargo hold was filled with dozens of industrial steel drums, stacked and strapped down. Several had corroded through, and a sickly yellowish residue had leaked across the floor of the hold and seeped into the surrounding water. Chemical hazard symbols were still clearly visible on the drums that remained intact. These were not old explosives. This was industrial toxic waste. Maya's lungs burned. She turned and swam back through the hatch as fast as she could, clawing her way to the surface. She gasped for air, hauled herself onto the dock, and immediately felt a wave of nausea roll through her. She did not know what chemicals she had just been swimming through, but every instinct in her body told her she needed to get away from this water immediately. Then she heard the engine. A small boat was rounding the harbor entrance. 2 men in uniforms stood at the bow, and they had already spotted her. Maya did not wait. She grabbed her clothes and ran barefoot across the cracked concrete, scaling the fence so fast she tore her palms open on the wire. She crashed into the tree line just as shouting erupted behind her. Derek was exactly where he said he would be. He saw the blood on her hands and the look on her face and asked no questions. They ran. It took them 2 hours to get back to the hotel through a different route. Maya showered for 40 minutes. That night, she told Derek everything. The military ship, the steel drums, the chemical symbols, the leaking residue, the men in the boat. Derek sat in silence for a long time. Then he asked her what she wanted to do. Maya had taken mental notes of every marking she had seen on those drums. She spent the next morning at the island's only internet cafe, uploading everything to an international environmental watchdog forum. She included the Google Maps coordinates, detailed descriptions of the chemical hazard labels, and photographs of the harbor fence and warning signs she had taken on her phone before climbing over. The post went viral within 48 hours. An international environmental organization launched a formal investigation within the week. Testing confirmed that the drums contained illegally dumped industrial solvents linked to a mainland manufacturing company that had paid local officials to sink the ship in the closed harbor rather than dispose of the waste legally. The harbor had not been sealed off to protect people from a dangerous old wreck. It had been sealed off to protect a secret. Maya and Derek cut their vacation short by 2 days. She spent most of the ferry ride home in silence, staring out at the open water.
Derek reached over and took her hand. She had gone looking for a discovery. She found one that lets you sleep peacefully afterward.